This is the first day of the April 96 7-day retreat in Springwater. It's so wonderful just sitting here quietly. Windows open, crows cawing. The fresh air of a sunny morning. The topic of the first talk, as is usual, will be new listening, a new kind of looking, listening. The whole subject of authority and what is our relationship with each other. The names of the topics are old. And yet, this moment of speaking/listening, are we new? It all depends on what goes on in the mind. Is the mind fairly quiet and open to find out this moment what is going on? Or is there already something in there, an old tape? I know what she has to say about listening and about authority. How many more times will I have to hear it? And having this or a similar kind of tape running in the thought mind prevents this very innocent, open listening as for the first time. And it is true, it is not the same talk as last retreat or retreat of the last 15 years or so. The only thing that I know right now is that the topic is listening freshly, and we need to talk about this thing of authority, because it's so important. But how it'll come out, what will occur, to be said, to be pointed at, to be related, I don't know. It's unprepared. It's always amazing how creative this mind can be when not coerced along set tracks. And this mind that is talked about is our mind, not a personal possession of any one of us. It functions creatively if left alone within its limitations of language, of expression. Language is called a limitation here because it can never completely express the whole thing, which cannot be capped in words. And yet we do use words. 6 talks this retreat. And in some amazing way, words can be helpful in bringing to light what is really happening now or at another moment. When something clears up, maybe because the words have been nagging, what is meant by this? What is the person talking about? It doesn't seem right, and yet it strikes a note, but what does it really mean? Sometimes this nagging goes on, and it's all right to go on. It does some kind of amazing work, which I don't know anything about, except that suddenly something will be clear, or is clear. Maybe just as one is talking. Because we're not just communicating with words. Are we communicating with presence of crows cawing and breath flowing? Body sensing, feeling. The fresh air, the warmth, the coolness. This is all there for all of us, this moment. It has nothing to do with personality or individuality. It's there. We are part of it. We are all of that. We are all of each other in this quiet listening without knowing what's next. So what we have learned as little children already through admonition, I don't mean the natural listening that is not even taught to children. Listening, by that I mean not just listening, one may be hard of hearing, but still there can be listening, even though there's hard of hearingness. There can be seeing, even though there's little or no sight in the eyes proper. It means the openness of the organism to what is here, to what the organism itself manifests freshly each moment. An openness which includes the motor cycle humming. So normally we are taught, when we are taught, it means listen to me, says the teacher or the mother. You're not listening. How many times do I have to say this until you listen? Listening to what somebody says and minding it, paying attention to it, following it, obeying it, or remembering it in school, what the teacher says, remember it so that it becomes part of the remembered repertoire of knowledge. Nothing wrong with this. We listen in our schooling to accumulate, and hopefully this accumulation will be available, present itself at the right moment, when needed to put it into use or to teach others. So we have learned a certain concentrated listening to remember, to know. And very closely associated with this process, the process of becoming somebody through what we know, that has started very early in our life, being commended, praised for remembering things, for having big storage areas for what was said, what was read, able to reproduce it on a test, in a conversation or on the job. We have high respect for people who know a lot, and we either would like to be that person, or if we are a person who knows a lot, there's an image growing out of this, to which there is an attachment. loving oneself in that image of being the knower. Don't know everything yet, but maybe someday I will, or somebody will know everything. Is that still an ideal? I don't know. Now we have the internet. We can just bring it up. But we have to know how to do that. They say it's not so hard. I haven't learned it yet. I haven't had that opportunity yet. The quick availability of this interneted brain, hooking into it. So, to watch the significance, the importance of this image of being the knower, because with that is connected a lot of our hurts and pains and jealousies, rivalries. Somebody knows more or knows it different, and we feel mobilized to defend what we know, even sometimes realizing it may not be quite the whole thing, but we need to defend it because we've said it. It's me now. And why this me, this idea and image of me, is being defended, maybe we'll find out in the course of a retreat or in the course of a lifetime. Because this me is a creation of a lifetime of thinking about ourselves. In set ways and also ever-changing new ways of adding to the imagery of what I am. Not just in my own mind, but what I want to be in other people's minds, how I want to be thought about, how I want to be regarded, how I want to be listened to. As an authority, people will believe what I say, follow it, not question it. That's coming to this phenomenon of creating authority. I don't know whether we have really totally plumbed this listening yet. At this moment of bodies moving, the sound of it, distant traffic or motor noise, the sound and feel of this breath moving, deep breathing, maybe a moment of no breathing, an unregulated listening to what is happening this moment. Listening, looking, feeling, touching. It's the senses open as one whole perception, this instant of not knowing what was there before and what will come after. Just a caw, 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 caw. And if thoughts are in the mind, can they show up in this whole open display? Thoughts about oneself. I don't know whether I'm listening right. Am I listening as well as the other person? I've never been able to listen when she talks about it. How could I do it? Is there a method? I'm just improvising all kinds of thoughts, but what they really are this moment, let it display itself in the spacious listening that isn't there in order to cut out or praise or get rid of. Open listening has no such motive. It just allows what is there to be there. Not knowing how long it'll be there. There it is. Does the word come up? Motorcycle? Does the word interrupt the listening, or it's just part of what's going on? A perception, and then the habit of the brain to need to know what it is, to label it. Often labeling something already gives a certain satisfaction to the brain and body. I'm knowing it. Partly because the label also associates with, is this good, is this bad, is this dangerous or beneficial? And according to these associated knowledges and feelings, the brain will pursue it or leave it alone. All this can become transparently displayed in the human mind, which is what? All the thought activity, the reaction activity, the imaging, the remembering, the hoping, the wanting and fearing, all not just thought activity, but totally interlaced and interlinked with this whole organism. And not just this organism, because if one of us is real scared, they may infect the whole community with that fear. Right now, if one has been watching the news, the occurrence of a few cases of sickness and the connection with sick cattle, it's an epidemic of fear broken out in Europe. I'm not saying whether this is justified or not, just observing the phenomenon, how we can infect each other with panic about something that we know, hear, see on television, and imagine it would happen to us, to our family. So, how does this relate to listening? Can it all be embraced, encompassed, comprehended in a vast listening space that has no center of judgment or choice? It allows what is there to be there at the same time with the breathing, thinking, reacting. Talking about it, listing it, the motorcycle, the crows, the breathing, the thoughts, makes it seem like one thing after another. But it's only talking in words and thinking in words that creates this one thing after another phenomenon. In truth, it's all happening at the same time. Which is marvelous. Behold, when the listing, labeling, thinking mind quiets down for a moment, and there everything is. No need to put it into order, it is in order. This morning, someone brought up the topic of authority, mentioning how triggering an issue it is for this person. How the buttons are pushed when somebody says, I hate the Democrats, somebody else says, I hate the Republicans. And why do I get so triggered by all of this was the question. And then in looking at it, questioning, because if we really are interested, why do I get so triggered when this topic comes up or when that is said, to ask that question into open space, not into the narrow space of, well, I already know, I really know why this is, and bringing out from our storage psychological or psychological explanations or whatever, but asking it freshly into open space so that out of this openness, an unforced body-mind creatively bubbling up responses. Maybe it's because of this. And then to look at it, not reject it right away or adopt it right away, but to look at it. There's a way of looking at things in the light of what bothers us, what has been bothering us for tens of years. And then maybe the answer comes, well, yeah, that's part of it, but it's not the whole thing. There's something more to this. Why do I get so passionately involved, engaged, angry, or whatever all the ingredients are of our upset? And let this sort of clarify itself by things coming up, looking at them, asking further. It's not a total thought process if you see what I'm talking about. It is a thinking and looking and probing and questioning and pausing. So what came up for this particular person was, I've always felt oppressed when there was no choice given to me for maybe another possibility, another option. This was what was to be accepted. This was the truth. No choice given to hear something else or to ask. That question is there another possibility? Is that the only thing? So when in the past 15 or 17 years that this topic has come up in a talk, I have been emphatic about not wanting to be an authority. There's something what I meant, something like that. Don't feel oppressed by this as the truth that you have to accept. Can't wiggle around in it. Can't ask questions back. No, let it just be an invitation to look and find out for oneself whether this is really so or not. Because there may be different ways of looking at things. We can open it up together, or we can do it alone or in a group. So then what has been very recently, most recent last week and a little bit less recent in the last retreat, two people have brought up to me, your voice is so authoritative when you speak. It seems incompatible with your statement that you're not an authority. And also, people do come to you because they want to hear what you have to say. And it's okay to speak with authority. Don't put it down. Don't create confusion in people's minds by what you say about authority. Have I created confusion by that? Maybe I have. I don't talk almost at all anymore about not being a teacher. It was too confusing to too many people. So you sit there, you have this microphone, nobody else talks, you don't come to us, we come to your room. That's what we call a teacher. So be it. I don't quarrel with it. What I mean with it when I say it is there's no image nurtured in this mind about being a teacher. And that's a tremendous freedom to have. A joyous freedom not to have to be anything while talking. And yet not negating. How can I negate that I'm talking right now? But it doesn't come out of an image of being somebody and wanting to create that image in people's minds so there's a certain attitude toward me, a certain privileged position established, all of the stuff which in my past experience has gone with teacher, being teacher. So that one I don't talk about anymore, particularly since our bylaws state clearly that I'm the resident teacher. I have to use this every time a bank statement has some signature and what I am. I have to tell the bank what I am. I do that, it's no problem. No sweat, as they say. The authority thing now has been approached again, and I'm thankful for this, because it's cleared up something. Namely, that there is a difference, isn't there, between authoritative and being authoritarian. It's the same root word in there of the author. But in one case of being authoritative, meaning, yes, this is so, I'll stick to it for the time being, unless I see it differently. And the energy that provides and expresses itself vocally, verbally. Strong voice. But that's different from being authoritarian, using this voice to intimidate people and broking no opposition, using one's position to squelch opposition or to promote the following, being followed. It's good that people bring it up, isn't it? This is clearer than it has been other times. So I hope that the energy that expresses it itself in a strong voice at times is not felt through association to be intimidating. That's the last thing I want to do, is intimidate anybody. We're here together as friends. And as I've also recently pointed out in retreats, my relationship to each other, to you, is one of a deep respect. I'm interested in what everyone has to say, truly. I'm not just saying that hypocritically, it's true. Maybe having grown up as the baby in the family, I still have this ingrained attitude of thinking everybody's older than me. I got to begin revising this. But an attitude dies hard. By older, I mean I have to listen to them. I respect what they say. I don't think it just comes from that childhood experience. It has a genuineness to it. Not that at times I can get very tired. Then one doesn't want to hear one more thing from anybody. Because the mind says, whoa, stop. Need to have some quiet time, digesting, assimilating, eliminating. But I hope, particularly for people who come here for the first time, You will not take the amplitude of the voice, whatever all of its byproducts are, to mean authority in the sense of you have to take this, swallow it. Be afraid of saying, I don't understand it, I see it differently. Because this is what this work is all about, learning from each other in a mutual presence of openness and affection. And we can bring that off, we can bring it about to be in each other's presence openly. Even though we have or may have deep-seated convictions, opinions, beliefs, to not let those get totally in the way of hearing each other out. And learning together. Because I don't just mean learning each other's opinions. That's an interesting learning. What the whole panorama of opinions is and can be. Always another one added. But can there be a deeper way of being together than rather accepting or tolerating each other's opinions? Is this listening, this sunny, fresh morning, with all the subtle sounds and feelings, sensations. Is that quiet, spacious listening an opinion? Is it a belief? Or is it something that just happens from moment to moment? When it's there, it's there. When it's not there, it's not there. And then opinions take over. I should be like this or like that. I can't do it. I'll be able to do it in 10 years. So, in working together on this, can we begin to be wise about what is an opinion? And what is the nature of opinion? Why is it held on to? How quickly it can change. Usually for the sake of another opinion, but sometimes nothing in its place except caw. And the breathing that goes on in this amazing organism, whether we fight for opinions or against opinions or not, this organism is breathing. Of course, if we're very passionately engaged in battle, verbal battle, I think right now, verbal battle, then the breathing is affected. At the moment one doesn't notice it, but after the argument is over, one feels, upset, or physically upset, or throttled, or explosive, palpitating. So then at that moment, can we begin to listen to a throttled breathing without putting an additional pressure on it, saying you ought to be breathing better than this. Where is all the yogic breathing gone after this argument? It's what it is right now. What is it when there is no pressure put on it to be otherwise? We will end here for today.